Great careers are not accidents, they're journeys built through clarity and intent. In every industry, there are such journeys that reveal true leadership, sacrifice, risk, and purpose. I'm Dirk Horn, and this is The Pitch and the Catch, where we dive into choices, changes, and the careers they create. Welcome. Today, we're joined by Michael Anthonavage, who brings more than 3 decades of experience at the intersection of biochemistry, clinical research, product development, and technical transfer. Across his roles, whether managing advanced clinical studies, steering global R&D programs, or consulting on biologically active ingredients, Mike has built a reputation of someone who can translate complex science into real-world solutions that consumers can trust. Currently, Mike is VP of Innovation at Vitaquest, shaping the company's scientific strategy, guiding new technologies, and translating the latest research into real, consumer-ready solutions. Today, we get to take a closer look at his journey and discover how science, innovation, and leadership come together to create extraordinary results. Welcome to The Pitch and the Catch, Mike. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Dirk. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm really happy we made this work. Hey, Mike, we have a flurry of topics based on the brief that you and I had, but I want to start simple. Let's start as simple as we can. But as you know, sometimes the simple things are the hardest things. Looking back at your amazing track record, what is the one thing you are most proud of? Is it simple?
Yeah, simple. I think the thing that I am most proud of is how my leadership skills eventually produced results, right? I think everybody goes into a leadership position with the expectation that they want to be a good leader. And there's usually little bits of feedback along the way that says, hey, this is working, continue to do what you're doing, and eventually you'll find nirvana as a leader, right? But as all leaders know, or all leaders in training know, that it's hit or miss. It's not all up to you. It's very environmental. It has a lot to do with the other people on the other end and their situation. So I think what made me proud of that, what inspired me to say that, is that I had a really good experience at one of my positions where my president and I, we kind of really turned a company around, and we turned it into, from a single ownership type of situation, to a more corporate ethos, which was our ethos, right? It was our vision that we imparted on the employees, and we chose the employees to become their own leaders. And I think empowering people to be leaders when they don't even know they can be leaders is very empowering as a leader, if that
Yes.
makes any sense, right? And I think that's important, because leadership isn't really about you as the leader. It's about the results that you impart on the people who you lead. And I took that pretty seriously, because I was at that stage in my career when I had all of my ducks in a row in terms of my knowledge base. It was now time to practice what I preached. It was time to put into practice what worked for me in the past. And I took all of my mentors' advice and all of my experiences, good and bad, and I said, what kind of person would I want to work for? Right? And that's who I wanted to be. Listen, it comes with bumps and bruises, and it comes with
Yep.
high and low points, but overall, I was really happy with how it all turned out. And if I hadn't had other opportunities to be put in front of me, which I still feel is part of my growth curve in terms of my personal growth,
Yes.
I probably would still be doing it at that particular company. So it wasn't as if I had reached my high point and said, okay, my job is done here, I'm moving on. It was a good transition for me. And the proof in the pudding on that was that I had asked my leadership when I left that job to not replace my position, and to put the people who we led in my position as a group to run the company, right, as a collective. And I think that they agreed to that. And that was a real honor to the efforts that not only I put into it, but my president as well. I can't take complete ownership of it, but together as a team, we did some really wonderful things for some wonderful people, and I'm really proud of that.
Not beautiful. Thank you. And just the last part, doing that, put a group of people into that position is a pretty advanced organizational model.
Yeah, I think it was more out of desperation than it was
Out of
opportunity. But you work with what you got, right? And these, unfortunately, I was listen. You, if you sit back and look at your resources before you make a plan, and you really study what the potential is, I think people over engineer solutions a lot. Um,
Yes.
I think the answer is usually right under your nose. If you can trust your gut and you can trust the people around you to bounce things off of and really take constructive criticism without your ego in the way, generally speaking, you'll be on the right path.
Yeah, that's a good. I will go back to the over engineering piece, but I don't want to lose a question that I had before that. I like that you use the word empowerment. I've seen companies and leaders telling a group of people, "You're empowered. Let's go do. Let's do it." And my experience is that's not empowerment because ultimately empowerment is much more, it's more complex than just saying, go do it, you're empowered. Because as a leader, I'm pretty sure I was a leader too. As a leader, you do have an idea where you want it to get to some extent. And there are limits, there are boundaries like budget, time, and anything. So this go, you're empowered is a pretty loose statement and doesn't really create empowerment. So this means when you say you empowered people, and that's probably my question. It was a statement and a question. How did you manage to get the empowerment piece
Mm.
right?
Listening to you say what you just said, the first thing that comes to mind is empowerment is not another word for permission,
No, no, it's not.
right? It's two completely different things, and not to get into that dichotomy, but the empowerment piece comes from a leadership perspective. It comes from being able to see what the finish line looks like before the people who you empower impart on their journey. You need to paint the picture. You need to do as much scale work and outlining and color palette availability and budgeting and capital resource, time, room for learning, room for failure, room for experimentation in terms of risk assessment, right? All these things start to play into what I would lump together as empowerment, right? Empowerment is really giving you the best conditions to succeed. That's my role as a leader. You have to it's like if you're the coach of a football team or a baseball team or a soccer team, right? You want the best players on the field at the right times, right? And if offense is the name of the game at this moment in time, you want your best offense. If defense is important, then you got to swap it out, right? And all the time in sports, and I like a sports analogy because in a sports analogy, situation changes every moment of the game, right? You're not only working against the other team's strategy, but you're also
Yes.
working against your own injuries. You're working against the weather. You're working against every imaginable.
Sometimes against the audience, it might not be.
Yeah,
It might be.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you're not the home team, yeah, for
And
sure.
I want to pivot in a bit to innovation, but I think the sports analogy is a great analogy when it comes to empowerment. You want people to be empowered in a way that they make decisions, but they stay within the pit, within the rules, but they move organically as they see fit and as it helps the game and the team. So I think that is empowerment needs those boundaries. And the boundary is one of the boundaries, don't take the ball and leave the pit because then we're in the out, right? Don't foul too much, whatever it is. So there's limits of empowerment and don't do anything stupid, at least when it comes to soccer, that you get a red card and you actually banned from the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are those limits, but when those limits are set within those boundaries, you want to give them as much freedom as they can have.
Yeah. And not feel like they're the only ones that can win the game. Right.
As individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. I am all about individual capability and
Yeah.
rewarding people for being or for excelling. But if you excel at your teammates' expense, I'd rather not have you on the team. Honestly. I mean, I know that sounds a little
No,
not
no,
like
no.
good synergy, but I believe the team is much more powerful as a unit than as its best player.
I had the honor to interview the former coach manager from Bayern Munich, and he said you can have one or two crazy people on the field, which you need. They add the creative crazy element, but if you have more than one or two, they actually destroy the entire team. Um,
There's too
and
many conflicting egos.
yes, yeah, to complete, and and then even they still have limits where he asks them, "You can be a diva, but I need you to play with the team as well."
Yeah. And to take it out of sports for a second, which would probably be a better analogy for the non-sports enthusiasts out there.
Yes, maybe there are some.
Yeah, it's being a musician in a band, right? You don't have if you're the bass player or the guitar player or the keyboard player or the drummer or backup vocals or lead vocals, you as an individual can't replicate the sound of that band, right? No matter how big or how small, right? Unless you're a band of one, then obviously you can do it. But the point of it is that there's additive and synergistic levels of achievement when you do things as a team, right? And
Yes.
teams are always associated with sports, but teams are everywhere, right? Your family's a team at some point, especially when you go away on vacation, right? You realize this when your kids are too young to act as a team, but when you get to go away as a family when they're older, they understand the benefit of behaving like a team.
Yeah, and you're still suffering from family dynamics as well. My first amazing things. The thing you're proud of took us to leadership empowerment. Let's pivot. Innovation. I know it sounds like a compliment, and maybe it is, but you gave me so much to think about after our brief. So it's more a note of appreciation. So, innovation. I said innovation is to successfully implement good ideas financially. And you, VP, you had a little bit of a different take. As the VP of innovation, how do you define innovation?
I think in the most basic terms, innovation is the ability to recognize an opportunity,
Hmm?
basically, right? So if you can't do that, then you probably shouldn't be on an innovation team.
No.
Um, doesn't mean you're not capable. It's just I would want to know where your horizon is or where your line of sight is on a daily basis. So recognizing an opportunity can come in a multitude of flavors. Mostly it's about talking to people who have an interest in sharing ideas.
Hmm.
And a large part of that is being a good listener. I think a lot of people in their career path want to impress, right? And it's natural to want to impress, right? Because everybody has a boss, no matter at what level you are. You're usually reporting to someone or some entity, a board or a supervisor or CEO or managers, whatever. So there's always that, in our capitalistic society, we've developed goals and objectives, and we've imported the mid-year and end-year review
Mm,
and merit-based raises and pay and all that kind of stuff, which makes us very performance KPI based, right? So
agreed.
your job was to
Yes.
do this list of things. How well did you do them? And the funny thing, as someone who had direct reports for a long time in my life, I would sit in these meetings regularly and ask my employees, "So, how do you think you did this year?" And like every good employee, worth its weight in salt, that, well, I did great, right? I did my
Yeah, of
job.
course.
I did this, I did this, and I did this. And I'm like, so you get a C then, right? So you did your job, right? Because that's what I think, right? Because as a I've been a teacher as well, right?
I
So
know.
what people get A's and B's? Well, the people who do better than the C player, right?
Mhm.
And what does that look like? So those are the people who think a little differently. These are the people that manage their time a little bit better. And these are the people who articulate their successes and their losses and their problems and their frustration in a constructive way where it's not detrimental to the project team or to the business, right? Because there is nobody that goes through life without adversity. There's nobody. And if there are, I'd like to meet them. But um, so it's really your ability to manage adversity, master complexity. Like I can use all these big corporate terms that I've learned that I would sit there in my younger days and I would tell my employees, hey, listen, you're getting this grade this year because you didn't master complexity that well. And I'd see the look on their face like, talking about, right? Because if my company can't communicate the goals and how to achieve the goals in a comprehensible way, then how do we expect the employees to behave that, right? And how do you expect to get the results that you want to get, right? So what ends up happening is the shiny object gets most attention, right? So your best player seems to
Yes.
outshine the rest of the team. And the rest of the team knows that, feels that, sees your attention not on them for a percentage of the time. So innovation really is about seeing through all that, right? You Innovation starts with the objective. What's the objective as an innovator? To bring in more business, to grow the business, to create loyalty, to create solutions to problems that we don't have. I mean, you can define innovation all day long, but if you
Yeah.
don't have the resources in the right order, then you tend to do more work than you have to. And I think a lot of people beat themselves up for put a lot of energy into things to explain them the way that makes sense to them. That's not the role of an innovator. An innovator is supposed to take an opportunity and make it palatable for the investment, for the investors or for the stakeholders, for whatever it might be. I'm talking in very general terms because innovation can mean a lot to mean something different to an engineer versus an HR person,
Yes.
an educator versus a technician. So there's a lot of subcategories of how innovation can be defined. But what I like about the overarching definition that I kind of live by, it's being opportunistic, and getting people together to talk about that opportunity. Certainly in a intellectual property type of way, right? Because you want to, if this is really unique, or if this is really special, if this is really an efficient way to tackle something, then you want to maximize its potential. Doesn't mean you have to
Yes.
patent it, the idea that comes out of your mouth, but you should consider what it means to the company and its employees at the same time. Yeah,
Understood. Question. When you ask people in more colloquial terms, they usually say invention, they associate more with invention. Someone who innovates invents something. And it is a statement, but also a question. Isn't that, if you take it as a business model and it's invention, it's a pretty high risk business model, because the likelihood that you invent something is potentially lower. But if you look at innovation as pattern recognition in that space, this is where innovation can be a business model. Because if you're hoping for the next iPhone, that's a big thing. But if innovation happens in consumer taste is changing, little tweaks in here, all that can be innovation too, then it can actually be fruitful or maybe more fruitful.
absolutely, Dirk. And I'll tell you, differentiation invites innovation,
Mm,
right? You
lem-
you have to, in my world, I talk to a lot of customers that come in to our business here, and they and they want to be in a certain space in the market.
Yes.
And then I say, oh, great. My next question is, why? And that's usually when things get a little fuzzy, right? And I don't mean it to break them down and say, listen, your
No,
idea
no,
stinks, right? That's like I have a lot of little idioms that I go by, and one of them is knowing what you want is half of getting what you want. And a lot of people think they know what they want until they hear other options, and then they go, "Oh, I want that
I
now."
want that. Yes.
And then I throw another scenario at them, and they're like, "I think I like that one better." So now I'm like, "Well, you're obviously overextended on this idea, so which one's it gonna be?" And then they'll pick the middle one. Just I'm saying something randomly, and then
Yeah.
I'll go back and say, "Why?" And then they
Yeah.
can't answer the question again. So people to invest in the why, right? And the why can come from a lot of places. The why can come from inside. The why can come from the market. The why could come from an experience that you've had or experience that someone else has had. It's not, there's no right or wrong to the why, but the why drives the passion, and the passion drives the will to be different, because repeating what someone else has is not innovation.
No.
That's mimicry, right? That's just trying to get market share from someone who's already done the work. And that's the problem with being innovative sometimes, is that if you're successful at being innovative, now you become interesting. And then when you become interesting, people want to be interested along with you.
Yes.
And they
Yes.
want to take the accolades of being interesting and say, I'm like that guy over there too. So it's a fun place to be, right? Capitalism is a wonderful thing, right? Because
Yes.
depending on your resources, and I've worked for multinational companies where I had lots of resources at my disposal. But the problem with that equation was I was too young to realize the potential of the resource. I didn't step on the gas till it redlined on the engine, right? So I never really figured out how fast the car could go, right? To really reap the benefits of the type of car that I was driving, or the type of company that I was involved with, to be able to really make the difference. Although I did make the differences in my own way, right? Because overextending yourself and being someone who you're not is, your authenticity is a big part of being innovative. Because if you're trying to be something else, it's really hard for that to pass the muster when it really gets tested. And I think innovation really comes from knowing what you want, right? Because then the passion's there, then the drive is there, and I think you get better results, good or bad, right? Not every innovative idea is a good idea, right? I think they
No.
call it brainstorm.
Yeah. Yes. Let's go back to that customer. I'm curious. So a customer comes in, and what are they looking for? So they're looking for something new and fresh that sells better, or what's the initial question when you start with asking the why?
Yeah. So a lot of currently in my role, I deal with Finnish brands that want to enter into the healthcare space in terms of supplements and and vitamins and nutraceuticals and things like that. So there are a myriad of categories of all your health, right? If you can name your organs, there's a category that kind of encompasses that organ, right? But we'll talk popular things like gut health,
Yes.
brain health, anti-aging, longevity, right? These are the things that I think most human beings can identify with. So when you go on Amazon, for instance, and you type in gut health, about, I don't know, 1,000 products come up, right? So if your goal is to be innovative in gut health, then you should know that you've got a very small space to play in, unless you can transformationally change that category. And this leads to different levels of innovation, right? So there's incremental innovation,
Uh-huh.
which means that I'm going to take something one step further than what's already out there on the market, right? That might be
Yes.
a flavor change. That might be different ingredients that kind of do the same thing that no one else is using. It's good, right? And if you pick ingredients that the public identifies with, then you're going to be wildly successful. And then there's transformational information, or transformational
Innovation.
innovation. that's when you completely flip the game, right? So if 90% of the ingredients out there are taken in a capsule or a tablet or some sort of ingestible form, if all of a sudden I can take them in a film and have it dissolve on my lip, on my tongue, or if I can drink something or change the product form or change the way it's stored in my house or be able to take it in my car and bring my health with me, mobile, right? Biohacking. That's a great example of transformational innovation, right? So what is biohacking? Biohacking is using all these little gizmos right now, like the Aura Ring and the continuous glucose monitors that people wear,
Yes.
getting your DNA tested for your propensity to metabolize caffeine, right? There's all this access to data right now that's about you. See, before all this, you had to read scientific papers and figure out where you sat in the statistics of it all, right? Well, statistically, if I eat a high fiber diet, I won't die of cancer of the bowel, right? Okay, how am I going to know that worked, right? I got to wait to the end of my life and figure out, well, I didn't die of bowel disease. I died of Alzheimer's instead. So
Yeah.
fiber works, you know, good job, right? It's a win. Don't get me wrong.
It's a win.
It's a
Yeah.
big win, right? But, but as a business plan, that's kind of a hard one to map out, right? And this is why prevention is the hardest to sell, right?
Yes.
Because there's really not an endpoint that you're putting it to. Anti-aging works really well in the beauty industry because people who look younger can tout that I've been taking this anti-aging serum or these pills or this exercise routine or I sleep 9 hours a day in a hyperbaric chamber and this is why I look the way I look. But not everybody thinks I look good. Different cultures have a different definition of beauty, right? So then it's all about how I think of myself, right? So again, it all comes back to this N of one. And that's why biohacking seems to be really catching on right now because a lot of people have been putting so much energy into themselves, health wise and nutrition wise and exercise wise and cognitive health. And we understand that if you don't use it, you lose it type of attitude with your brain, right? You see people retiring older but not on stressful jobs, right? They'll leave the 9 to 5, but they'll continue to consult or
Yes.
pick up hobbies, or they'll be part of hiking groups, or they'll travel the world and they'll do all these things. And then they realize that the mobility enables that, right? So a great mind can't see the world if it can't walk, right? So it's amazing. It's amazing. You know, our lifestyle in as this industrialized world it seems to be peaking at it now and you look at the transformational changes along the way. The invention of radio caused an upheaval in society, right?
Yes.
Roaring 20s was a lot about radio, right? Because now I could hear what's going on in a country far, far away, right? Then came television,
Yes.
white color television. Then came the computer, the telephones in there too, right? Cordless, cell phone, computer, social media. Now it's AI, right? All these things are transformational innovation that leads to chaos at first, and then it it kind of normalizes, right? The
Yeah.
extremes become less extreme, and now it kind of settles into a nice place. The airplane, right? When the Wright brothers got off the ground and flew, what was it, 900 feet or whatever it was? I mean, people said, "Okay, we can fly now."
And it
Right?
was
Imagine
20 feet
space
up in the
shuttle
air.
head over the Kitty Hawk and saying that's what that this invention is going to lead to that. Right? It's
Yes.
like a Star Trek movie.
I'd love to take a sidestep when you be biohacking, just totally inspired me. What is incremental biohacking? Because I think we're all interested in this. What would be incremental biohacking and what is transformational biohacking? Just,
Well,
yeah,
I'll use the same
we make this a health
I'll use the
podcast.
same example for both. A transformational biohacking would be the adoption of some sort of instrument or gizmo that's going to feed you data. right? So, for
Yes.
instance, the continuous glucose monitor, you see people wear them on the back of their arms or on their
Yes.
thighs or something like that. And you'll find that a lot of people, well, listen, they were invented for diabetics, right? So they can control they can monitor their blood sugar and administer insulin as they as deemed fit, right? If their sugar went above a certain point, you would give a certain amount of insulin, and then you would watch your blood sugar come down. And what was really good about this device is that you could then drink some orange juice or have a small piece of candy or something if your blood sugar went below where it should be, right? And this is wonderful because before these continuous glucose monitors, you had to prick your finger and figure out when your blood sugar was doing what it was doing. So that's a
That's
lot of
yes.
that you're pricking your finger a lot. And so this was a convenience. Now you see athletes and you see non-diabetics using the glucose meters to understand their diets, right? Because if you and I sit down and eat the exact same thing with the exact same fasting behind it, right? We both fast for 12 hours. We both sit down and we have brown rice, salmon, and Brussels sprouts.
Yes. No, we don't have Brussels sprouts. At least I don't. Something, yes, better.
Your blood sugar is going to move differently than mine.
Yes.
It's going to go up. We're both going to go up. But what's going to drive that, right? So obviously it's going to be the rice. And you start to read the books about how much white rice raises your blood sugar versus brown rice versus long grain rice, whatever. There's all these different kinds of rices out there, whether it's reheated rice from yesterday or it's fresh rice made today, right? The starch content is all very, very important for how high your blood sugar goes and for how long it stays high, right? So those two parameters are very, very important for a biohacker because then they start to realize that, hey, listen, next time we go out to dinner, Dirk, I'm not having the rice because I'm
Yes.
watching my weight, I'm watching my sugar, I'm trying to make sure that I have a family history of diabetes. I don't want to be taking insulin, right? That's a preventative attitude. At the same time, I'm also wearing this device when I'm exercising. So if I go and if I look at my phone and it says to me that my blood sugar is like 70, which is, kind of low, detrimentally low, but pretty low. And then I go try to exercise. Now my blood sugar starts to drop down dangerously low, right? So is that good for me? Is that giving me the best performance while I'm exercising? No, because my body has to start to supplement my sugar by other means, which it can, which is healthy thing to do. So transformational innovation in biohacking is the invention or the utilization of these devices to make personalized choices to live a incrementally healthier life, right? Because you can't transformationally be healthy. I can't wake up tomorrow and go, ta-da! I'm 5 pounds lighter and I'm 10 points smarter and I got hair and I look 10 years now, right?
Wouldn't this all be nice? Imagine we found the formula for this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe I'm working on it. Maybe this weekend. I don't know.
Nice. Mike, we amazing conversation. So we came from leadership styles that produced results, empowerment. Innovation has the ability to recognize opportunity. I love the biohacking thing, which keeps, will continue keep me thinking about it. Let me pivot again. I would like to talk about information overload because that's something you and I touched base upon. And you gave me a quote that actually made me think, and I still haven't solved the puzzle yet. You said most people try to fit the ocean in a bottle. Why not build a relationship with water?
Yeah,
So, what's the relationship with, because the information overload, and I know we're pivoting, we're going somewhere
yeah,
else,
yeah,
but it's
yeah,
in the same realm. We all, the biohacking is the one thing which we all do because we all think about our health, and we're all thinking about, the information that actually rains down on us. We are not able to, hardly able to manage it. What does it mean to have a relationship with it from your perspective?
Well, certainly with the advent of the internet,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember a life before it.
Same here.
While I was in school, right? So you had to carry books. Most households had some form of an encyclopedia in the house.
Yeah, it's like
And
20.
yeah, a whole shelf.
Yeah, there was a whole shelf.
Yeah, that was the world's knowledge.
Yes.
And I've heard some crazy stat, whether or not this is true, I don't know, but I think it puts it in perspective. Like, so back in Benjamin Franklin's time, you could fit everything that that guy knew in the Sunday edition of the New York Times,
Oh my God.
right? Quantitatively, I guess.
Yeah. Quantitative, cumulative.
Now, right? That's what a grade school kid is exposed to, right, on a daily basis,
Amazing.
right?
Yeah.
The amount of data that is at your fingertips is incomprehensible, right? Why is it incomprehensible? Because we haven't evolved along with the production of the data, right? We find ourselves very, listen, I teach, right? And the best so far for me anyway, when I teach science, when I teach anatomy, physiology, if I teach chemistry or anything like that, you teach it with an algorithm called reductionism. Reductionism is the sum of its parts to understand the overall function, right? So when you look at the body could be the whole, and then the organ systems, the organs, the tissue, the cells, organelles, the biomolecules, the molecules, the atoms. It goes down, 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 down.
Yes.
Gets smaller, but the amount of information doesn't get smaller. Matter of fact, the whole study of chemistry is about atoms and how they interact with each other to make molecules. The whole study of physics is how atoms stay together, right? And how they interact with their universe. And then there's quantum physics, and it just gets more and more. The expansion of knowledge gets even crazier when you get smaller, and it goes the other way when you get to space and things bigger than the human body as well. So reductionism is a really good tool to learn a topic. But now that you've learned that topic, what use is that topic if you can't integrate it with all the other topics that are out there in the world?
Yep.
And now that you've got AI, which before AI, I used to call it systems biology or systems learning, right? And
System
I
learning.
said, well, that would be the ultimate way to problem solve, is that if I could be a systems thinker, take my Venn diagram of all of my biochemistry that I know, and my Venn diagram of all the physics that I know, and medicine and religion and sociology, and push them together and find that common little place in the middle where they all touch. That's nirvana on the information highway, right? And every problem I had, I could just bring in all the disciplines that are involved in that problem and push them together so I can find that intersection where they all overlap, and there lies my solution. Well, AI does that now.
Yeah.
I ask AI to ask the internet what it knows, and that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it comes back in about a minute, right? It's not always right. We're at the Wright brothers stage of AI right now in terms of information integration, and even at certain companies have their own enterprise AI where that AI just stays in the company, because
Yes.
remember, every time that you're using AI publicly, you're teaching the world with your question. So it's machine learning off of every user, which is really interesting. That was the primitive form of that was Wikipedia, if you go back,
It was.
right? And I used to have an online course where the lessons were homework that the students had to come back with doing internet research on the questions. And I could always tell when someone was using Wikipedia, because chances are it was wrong or it wasn't referenced right, or I know. But this is in the early days, right? Wikipedia got much better as time went on, and it's really useful for short queries or if you don't know something. So the whole point of swimming in it is, I don't think anybody could be an expert in everything, at least not now. I mean, from my generation, certainly, maybe the kids that are born today will evolve in a society of information management that will allow them to completely, transformationally reprogram the way their brain accesses and integrates information. We're capable of it. We do it every day with our eyes and our ears and all our five senses. There's thousands of stimuli that are coming into our body every second of our day. And we don't think about these things. It's all autonomic. But when you got a bad feeling about something, when you're in a situation where it's not good, or if it's good, if you're in front of someone who you like, right? But not a word said. So there's a lot of information out there that we don't understand how to use yet. So I say
Correct.
that in order to truly take advantage of the amount of information out there, you have to pick a lily pad or perspective to accept it from. You just can't say, I want to own the ocean, right? You
No.
gotta you gotta jump on an island or be in a boat or be somewhere in the ocean from a strategic point of view and say, I want to go north, or I want to go south, I want to go to the equator, I want to go in the direction of the sun, whatever floats your boat. I want to catch fish, right? There's all kinds of analogies to that ocean that are more specific than just being on.
Yes.
I don't know if that made
Um,
sense whatsoever.
no, no, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I can
uh,
smell
No, no, it is like living by the ocean and perceiving the ocean as a threat. That is not a solution. Like there's so much ocean and it has moods and the ocean can be threatening all of this. So, and if the ocean is the all the information that is out there, a relationship with water means I go swimming from time to time. I find my way to interact with the ocean. Maybe I become a fisherman or I'm becoming a sailor. This is like navigating information. It's
Well,
not
you
about
respect it, right? You respect it.
you respect. You need the ocean is something you need to respect anyways because it can be pretty dangerous if you don't respect the ocean. But the solution is not. I'm not fighting against the ocean. I own it in the way and I use it in the way that it works for me. I think that is the message that you
And I
have. You
think I
don't.
think what complicates this analogy, or might add some clarity to the analogy, is that the ocean is the full potential of all information
Yes.
as we're talking about it. You don't need all the information.
Yes. That's what yes.
Yeah. Right. You
Yeah.
you need to farm it, I think, or you need to harness it in a way that suits your particular need. Right? So if I build a house next to the ocean, it'd probably be safe to build it on stilts, right? Because the ocean swells, ebbs and flows, and you probably want to build it in a place that it doesn't freeze because your sole need is to access the ocean for nutrients and food. You want to be able to get to it. That doesn't mean you can't get to it if it freezes. It just means it gets harder to do it, right? So what's incredible, and as a biologist, I fully appreciate this. Life exists just about everywhere, right?
Yes.
I'll use the old Jurassic quote: "It finds a way."
Yeah.
It does, and it
It
finds
does.
a way not on purpose, but by default. Evolution is a process, believe it or not, if you want to believe it or not, that evolution is a process of environment. So whether it's negative pressure or positive pressure, but there has to be pressure. If there's no pressure, there's no growth. There's no push
Mm.
one way or the other. And I think evolution is something to reimagine when you talk about harnessing the ocean or innovating in the ocean, right? Because if I have access to all the information in the ocean, then chances are I have the greatest potential to innovate. But if I don't have the tools to farm the ocean for what I need to innovate towards, I don't have that environmental pressure that impetus to push me to go fish or to go sail or to build shelter or to hide from bad weather, whatever the situation is. I'm trying to stay oceanish, right? It becomes futile, right? And then now all your energy isn't being put to the right place. You're surviving not thrive. And there's a difference there. There really is a difference. Many people go to work to survive, and many people go to work to thrive. If you find yourself surviving, chances are you're not really with your overall year to year outcome. I mean,
Yeah.
you could be living a perfectly normal life, right? I'm not trying to put anybody in a bucket,
No, it's good.
but I got to tell you, there's a difference in job satisfaction in those two different people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You talk to a survivor versus a thriver. The thriver is going to have just as many crappy days as the survivor, but he or she is going to overcome that in a way that's going to foster their growth. Maybe not have them repeat a mistake more than twice or three times, right? If you're lucky, and or just be that much more attuned to what's going on around them, right? And listen, I have lots and lots of employees. Not everybody's going to be an overachiever, right? You're going the bell-shaped
It's
curve.
fine.
Most people are in the C part of the bell-shaped curve of the grade, right? And that's a
65
great
to
place to be.
75%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great place to be. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can't be a C player and want to be an A player, but behave like a C player.
So if all the information is there's the ocean, a lot of people feel that is threatening. Because there's just too much and we can't process it all. But we have it at our fingertips in in any moment. That's the terrible thing. And I think what I just learned from you, maybe today, the relationship with the ocean means maybe I use the ocean from time to time to swim in. Maybe I use it to have a little boat, but that doesn't mean that I need to know everything about deep sea marine life and currents in other parts of the ocean because they don't concern me with how I use the ocean. And I think what's driving that feeling of being small compared to the ocean is our FOMO, our fear of missing out. That we feel like, no, there's this huge ocean and I need to know everything about that ocean. I think that is the biggest trap that we have when it comes to managing all the complex information is out there. It's not all for us and it's not possible. Our brains are not built to have the entire ocean stored in our memory.
And those that do live by the ocean like that suffer from what I
Yes.
call
Yes.
paralysis by analysis.
Yes.
So what happens to these people is that they don't do anything. They stand there and they study.
Yeah.
They
They're stunned.
study.
Yeah.
How many waves are coming in on Tuesday? How many waves are coming in on Wednesday? 3 more waves came in on Thursday. Something's wrong. I got to stop what I'm doing. I got to figure out why. Right?
Yes.
Maybe it's the moon. Maybe it's just bad weather. Maybe you just miscounted. Maybe there's a lot of things, right? But the point is, and listen, whatever everybody determines what's important at a certain time and place, right? So today I might not need to know about currents in the ocean,
Yes.
but if I need
Yes.
to navigate to South America from Alaska, I better learn about currents.
Yes, yes, but only and I think it's all a question of use case. And when we look at AI as the opportunity, that is the super brain that allows me to tap into an information that I might have not needed until now, but maybe I want to cross the Atlantic now with a small sailing boat. AI helps me to better understand what I need to know and what information is there, which then only becomes relevant when I want to cross the ocean with a sailing boat. But if I don't want to do this, I don't need this information.
But you feel good knowing it's there.
Yes, I think this is maybe the new relationship with the AI tools that I know once it becomes relevant, the tools at my disposal.
I'm not afraid to not know because I
Yeah.
know I could know if I apply myself to it.
Yes,
That's the
exactly.
beauty of being taught confidence or being taught how to learn. And I got to tell you, that's a lost art. And I wish I knew that at a younger age because when I was in high school, I got through high school very easily. I didn't study that hard. I just had a good knack for what was being shown to me and I could regurgitate it And no disrespect to the high school that I went to, but as soon as I went to college after that, I did not have the study skills because I was never trained on how to study in a way that was beyond what was comfortable for me. So here, I mean, the amount of information that I had at my disposal when I was a kid to now is logarithmic, right? And I'm sure it's going to be even more exponential for every generation coming. So this is going to be a fact of life for a long time. And one of the reasons why we got to where we are with the information technology today is because we could store information better. Storage was actually the evolutionary pressure to allow for AI, right? Now it's going to become electricity and air conditioning because these computers run so hot and heavy, right? And it's infrastructure.
And I'm remembering my electricity from July, where I was like, "What's happened to my electricity bill?" And then the power company said, "Oh, New Jersey has those many AI data centers. You're paying for it." I'm like, "I'm paying for AI that people use in Romania?" They're like, "Yes, you do."
So they say.
So they say. The last thing I wanted to touch, and then we round because we could. As I said, I'm enjoying this. We talked about truth, and that is a topic that is very closely related to all the information that is available. There's a 2024 Edelman report, which is quite, I don't know, it became quite famous for a reason. They say 76% of people say they struggle to know what is true. Because there's whatever fact they find, there's so many different ways to look at this fact that they lose the idea of truth. And I think that that's a societal and philosophic problem, but it's also in corporations. If we don't know what's right, then what is? So how can we find truth with the ocean in front of us?
Wow. How can we find truth? Well, I think you very articulately said that the truth can exist in a variety of forms. The left side of the argument and the right side of the argument, just to keep it linear. Right? Your truth, I think, is contingent on what your goal is.
By the way, it takes us back to your customer that comes in.
Yes. Right. And I think it's the same subject could have multiple truths depending on the environment that it lives in. Because
Yes.
one thing that
Yes.
is for sure is that life changes. Change is inevitable. It's an evolutionary process, right? We've invented this concept of time, and time allows for things to change. Now, you could put a lot of energy into the system and prevent it from changing, and that keeps your truth constant. But inevitably, if you lighten up on that energy or that input to keep things constant, they will drift one way or the other. And that can literally give you a whole dissertation on how this applies to human aging or anything else for that, right? Because we've invented knowledge as a species. I don't think dolphins swim the ocean memorizing the multiplication tables or
At least we think they don't.
zeros and ones and bits, right? They have their own language, right? And I don't know what they think, frankly, and maybe they do know the multiplication tables. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
we
the
don't.
point of the matter is that your truth is your truth, or
Correct.
your company's truth, or your family's truth, or your religious truth, or your philosophical truth, right? So I think it comes down to narrative, right?
Yeah.
What is the narrative that you're living by? Right?
Yes.
What is the ethos of your company? What is your company's mission? One of the things that I really loved about working for one of the multinational companies that I worked for in the past is they had a credo. And I thought that was so corny when I first joined the company. Credo. Every
The
company.
J&J Credo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
very popular. I had to write an essay about this in school,
Yeah.
in university.
4 separate
I know the
sections,
credo, word by
right?
word.
And the stockholder was the last
Yeah.
section, right?
Yes.
The employees were up top. The environment that which you worked in the middle, and your peers were in there. So all the things mattered in the order and the words, and it was all very, very articulately laid out. And every couple of years, we would meet as a company and revise the credo to make sure it stayed current. Right. And when I left that company after 15 years and I started working for companies that didn't have a credo, I'd be like, how could you behave like this? Like it became part of my ethos. Like that was my truth now.
Yeah, the credo is a great corporate example of creating a truth for a subset, which is the employees of this company. I could go deep on this because this is something that Silicon Valley brought back. Is the purpose, mission, and everything. We're creating a sort of version of the truth that is something that people can relate to, people can take as a common denominator once when they interact. I think that's what the credo does.
Let's apply the credo to our problem. That should tell us how to behave.
Yes. Yes.
And it works.
Yeah, it
Really.
works. It gives priorities as even the sequence of people, environment, stakeholders, and everything. Mike, last question. After we started small in comparison to where we ended philosophically, but that's what I was hoping to get out of this conversation today. Let's close it again with like maybe a more pragmatic question. So, with all the experience you had in your career, with all the exposure you had, what is your recommendation to the next generation, scientists, leaders, anyone? What's the single most important habit or mindset they should cultivate?
Yeah. In retrospect, I can
Yep,
say this with
it's fine.
confidence now. Because my younger self, I didn't practice this too much, but now I see the value of it. And listen with intent, right? It borderlines it's in the empathy bucket, if you will, but you don't necessarily have to agree with what I'm listening to. I think you should take yourself out of the exercise of listening sometimes, right? Take your own opinions and put them aside for a second. And I know if my wife was listening to this right now, she'd be, yeah,
We'll send you a link for her.
I will. But yeah, I think if there was a lesson that I've learned, I spent my younger years, as I think I said earlier on, trying to impress people that I knew what I was talking about, right? Wanted that promotion. I wanted that project. I wanted to be more responsibility. I wanted my work to speak for myself, right? So, and those were, that, that served me well. I'm not going to say that that was a bad decision on my part, but also I probably missed a lot of opportunities because I was talking when I should have been listening. And as a person who has been on the innovation front for a number of years now, I really see the value of missing that. Now, I have about an hour each way to work every day, so I have a lot of time to reflect on whatever floats into my mind. And sometimes that floats into my mind saying, well, I wonder if I listened to this guy a couple of years ago, if I would be driving down this road right now, right? Or would I still be living in New Jersey working for this company? Or would I be retired? Or whatever, right? What if, right? Easy mind game to play with yourself. But when you have the ocean now at your disposal, there's two ways to interact with it. You can listen to it, or you can sample it. Right? You can be in it, or you can be out of it listening to it. Right? Either way, it's still an influential force in your life. So information, I believe, because I'm not so much I'm more left brainer than a right brainer. Like so, I'm a data centric kind of
Yes.
person. I I find that you can hear six versions of the same story and have six different outcomes. So going back to what's truth, so wherever you decide to land,
Yes.
like what do you do with it? Right? I think the truth is actually fosters your next action. Because if you believe what you heard and you act upon it, then you have adopted that as truth for that time and space. And to your point, truth changes. So truth isn't absolute. And I think if you can listen you can experience multiple truths and then have choices. And I think there's not a single person on a planet that wouldn't like choice.
Yeah.
You know, some people like to be told what to do so they don't have to think about things, but ultimately, people like,
Ultimately, although not me when I drive onto a half empty parking lot, I have so much trouble parking the car. If there's just one spot available, I'm so happy.
well, that's what we'll pick up next time.
That's what we pick up next time. Hey, Mike, wonderful. Let me do a little bit of a roundup, just a couple of sentences to round this up and phase this out. From biochemistry to clinical research to innovation leadership, and Mike's career shows what happens when scientific rigor is paired with judgment, curiosity, and the courage to pursue clarity in a world full of noise. That's the ocean we've talked about. He's helped build products and pipelines, but more importantly, Mike's helped shape the thinking behind them, connecting evidence, opportunity, people, and consumer trust in ways most people probably never see. I think what truly sets Mike apart is his ability to translate complexity and understanding. And I think we've seen a lot of this during the episode today. And I think whether you're guiding teams through ambiguity, evaluating new technologies, or mentoring emerging scientists, you bring a rare combination of discernment, focus, and we've seen that also today, intellectual honesty. In an age of overflowing and with overflowing information and claims, that kind of clarity isn't just valuable. And to be frank, it brings us, I think that's one of the main tasks of leadership. Mike, thanks for the amazing conversation today. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk. It's been a pleasure.